She's one of my favorite people, right? Is she? Even with my dollar glasses. My dollar glasses are still there.
Looking for my readers myself. I'll be holding it out.
I usually travel.
You'll make it. We'll take our time.
Where to put that thing.
That's
right. It won't last.
No.
After they're recognized, that'll be.
Is it just the band?
Well, we got band, soccer, and Christine Hart. So basically, it'll be the back row. The back row will be that.
Recognize some of these kids.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention a moment. Since there is no chair or vice chair, I'm going to ask our board secretary to read the board policy, which is 1.200, the method of electing officers, and then we'll go from there about nominating the chair and vice chair. Mrs. Perkins.
At the first regular meeting after each biennial election, the board shall organize by electing a chairman and a vice chairman to serve a 2-year term or until a successor is named. In the event that an officer's seat on the board is vacated, the board shall elect a successor to serve the remainder of the officer's term. Each board officer shall be eligible for re-election. If no officer of the board is serving at the time of the organizational meeting, any member shall call the meeting to order and preside until a chairman is elected as the first order of business. If the office of chairman is vacated prior to the expiration of the annual term, the vice chairman shall assume all responsibilities of the chairman until a new chairman is elected.
At this time, the floor is open for nominations.
I would like to nominate Rita Brewer as our chairman, please.
Okay, that doesn't take a second. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Armstrong as our chair.
Okay. Other nominations? Okay. At this time, we can do it either by voice vote or by secret ballot. And you have in front of you, this is an exercise in democracy, troops. Here, you have 2 sheets of paper in front of you here with a pencil. What's the pleasure of the board about making this selection?
I think we should do a ballot.
Okay.
Let's do a ballot.
Dr. May says ballot. What do you think?
Okay, well, that's right. I'd like to share why I recommended Mrs. Armstrong. She has served on the board longer than anyone else has at this time. Her knowledge of policy and procedures is tremendous. And I think Ms. Brewer is good also, but I think we have about the same amount of time yet. So that's why my recommendation was for Mrs. Armstrong.
Anything else from anyone else? If you'd be kind enough to write your selection on either of those candidates and fold it and pass it this way, I would appreciate it. At this time, Mrs. Brewer has been selected, and now we will move to get a vice chair. But as I understand it, I guess we'll go from, you can go ahead, Ms. Brewer, if you wish, and go through the process of nomination for vice chair.
The floor is now open for nominations for vice chair.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to nominate Ms. Baker. Would you repeat that, please? Ms. Baker.
She just wants to speak.
I did not hear your nomination, so.
Okay.
I don't think I did either.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Baker.
Any other nominations?
I would like to consider Mr. Isaacs for that position as well.
Anyone else? If no one else is going to respond, then please, on the second sheet of paper, write the candidate whom you wish. It appears that Mr. Isaacs has been selected. At this time, Mrs. Brewer, if you will call the meeting to order, and we'll have the pledge and flag.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the November meeting of the Elizabethton City Schools Board of Education. I'd like to thank you guys for coming out tonight. We'd like to wish you an early happy Thanksgiving and for a belated happy Veterans Day, Mr. Alexander. Hope you had a good day. So ask Mr. Alexander if he would please lead us to the pledge to the flag and in a moment of silence.
If we would please stand. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, if you would pause, please, for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please take seats. At this time, if Coach McClay would come forward, we have a microphone for you. We also will be taking pictures. He's going to call up the members of the soccer team.
I'll call we had 13 this year, which was the largest number of seniors we've ever had on a girls' team. That's probably one major reason for our success. So I'll call them up, those who are here. Miranda Highstand. Christine Harden. Allison Williams. Katie Cooter. Sophie Bremer. Kimberly Berkner. Katie Adams. I'll read the names of those who aren't here. Savannah Walsh, Jesse Ryans, Jessica Pierce, Beatrice Mendez, Reason DeMoss, and Clarissa Cefulo. We have one playing basketball. We've got one preparing for knee surgery, another one recovering from broken foot, and several working. So unfortunately, they all couldn't be here. I saw Sophie in the hall today, and I said, "What do you want me to say about you?" And she said, "Tell them I'm awesome." So I am. And I also want to say that they all were. This was a very, very good year for us. I just read what will be in the yearbook this year. 2012 was a great year for the Lady Cyclones. After repeating as Region 1 champions, the ladies won the first sectional match in program history. And there's our region plaque. We have 2 of them in a row, which is a first. We earned our first trip to the state tournament. Great memories were created this year with the overtime win over Greenville, the shootout victory versus Gatlinburg-Pittman, and, of course, the trip to Chattanooga. Team won the most ever 13 matches this season. While setting another record, we scored 103 goals this year, which is about 25 more than we've ever scored. Led by this great group of seniors, the team persevered through a very tough schedule and the ups and downs of a very long season. And in the end, their hard work, dedication, and pride in being a Cyclone have set a standard of excellence to be long remembered. If you would please give them a round of applause. Oh, and this is Danny Berkner, who, and I mentioned we had our banquet on Monday, and besides keeping things straight, I would have handed those all out incorrectly. That was the quiet voice on the sideline. It was kind of a joke on the team. I went this year, I improved some. I went from thinking the world or the glass was always half empty. They convinced me it was 3/4 full. But there were times when I realized I was in my 1/4 empty mode, and that's when Danny would bring me back and say, "They're really not playing that bad. Just relax a little bit." So, and that's what occurred, and we did not play that bad. We played very, very well this year, and they're deserving of this recognition. I'm thankful to be here tonight. Oh, and this, while I'm thinking about it, this is, I really don't, Alabama is not that important to me. But what I needed when we were done with the state tournament and we went out to eat, I needed something for my own remembrance, and so I figured this is not something I would normally wear. So whenever I see it lying around the house or whenever I put it on, it will remind me of this season and especially this group of seniors. This is a group that over 4 years never had a losing record. Okay, this is the first time for the second time in program history, but the first time in a while where we've gone 4 years without losing a match. And hopefully we'll continue that next year, but this is my memory for myself.
I would like to also say that Coach McClay was the Coach of the Year, and he deserves a round of applause for that as well. We have waited 3 months to give Christine Harden this plaque, and it says on this her participation in 3 sports during one season, her appearance on the September 24 edition in Sports Illustrated, her total contribution to athletics and academics, as this is as sharp a group academically as you would see, and I think they all need to be commended for that. And as a result of that, we'll be taking their picture right here in a minute. If you'll present that to her, and y'all stay right here as Mr. Trent's going to make a picture. Y'all sort of scooch together, please. Please hold up the plaque. Please. and these same individuals be recognized, I understand, by the city council. I hope we can get the rest of the ladies there in December. I think that's the 13th. So that's, as the football team received a proclamation, they are going to receive their own proclamation for having gone to the state. And as he's getting these lined up, I hope that y'all will notice that over the years we have 8, 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, and we will have another 20 by 30 of these individuals, and they will be, of course, with their state cup, which they have right here a year back, okay? So, which they broke, but they got it back. I guess that's the reason. But also, if you'll look at Mr. Elliott in this picture as he's lining those up, Mayor Sharpen was giving him a plaque and a proclamation when they both had hair. Also, folks, we're hopeful of having a reunion again. We've had 2 of those of the alumni band, and it's really a pleasure. And these people will be coming back, we hope, in the future. So.
Okay, I'm Perry Elliott. I'm the band teacher at Elizabethton High School, and this, of course, is Chris Lockhart. He's the band director at T.A. Duggar Middle School, and we're very, very fortunate to have Mr. Lockhart. And these are the senior class, or this is the senior class at Elizabethton High School, and they are the state champions, which we're very, very proud of course. This group is really outstanding, and I know we like to say that because we think of all of our children as being really, really outstanding, and they are. They all have straight teeth, and they all are really, really good. That's what they say anyway in Mayberry. But this is a really, truly outstanding group. This group won the state championship when they were sophomores, and they were very upset when they didn't win it last year. So I heard this more than once. This is our destiny to win this. And I would go, yeah, right, okay, good. I'm glad this is your destiny. But I really believe that if you believe hard enough and you work hard enough, you can make destiny your own. And they did. I can tell you, rehearsal after rehearsal, rehearsals on Monday night start at 5:30. And so I literally could not get there early enough to beat them. They were always there. If I got there at 4:30, they were already there. And you say, well, that's really great. I'm glad they're arriving early. But they had all of their peers there, and they were practicing. They spent hours and hours of their time to make this happen. So this is really a truly outstanding senior group. And I've heard this said already. How will we be as good as we are this year without them? I've heard students say that. But don't worry, we'll be just as good without you. But they are truly an outstanding group of seniors. And if I may take a moment now to talk about the band in general, I am so proud to be the band director at Elizabethton High School. I'm so honored to work with Chris Lockhart. He is a wonderful individual and an extremely professional person and does a marvelous job. I am honored to work with the administrative staff at Elizabethton High School and have the support of everybody in Elizabethton City Schools. We're very, very pleased with that. I don't know if you notice this, but there's a joke, and it always goes, it takes a village, and everybody always laughs, because it's kind of the punchline of a joke. But I will tell you right now, it takes a town to make the Elizabethton band what it is. Funding, support, volunteer hour after hour. It really goes all the way down to the person that buys one box of fruit. It is just really a great thing. I don't really think that they get it very much because they go to a band contest and they carry themselves with such dignity, and that starts with their parents. We have such wonderful parents that do such a great job and send us a wonderful product. They send us almost a finished product, and then all we have to do is point them in the right direction. It is truly a great school system. It is a great organization. And I cannot tell you, when we go places, the things that are said about this town. There's a really good story, and I can talk for hours, and I'll stop, I promise. But there's a really good story, and it's Kurt, where are you standing? Leslie Kate, Kurt's sister, told me this story. They went to a church somewhere in South Carolina. They just stopped, and they said, "Where are you from?" And they said, "Elizabethton." And they said, "That's the Betsy man." And I have been many places that people say, "You're from Elizabethton?" I go, "No, I just work in Elizabethton." And they go, "Have you ever heard the Elizabethton High School Band?" And I go, "Yes, I have heard of that." And so the band has a really fabulous reputation. But the thing that I am the most proud of on the state competition, and I'll give you the very much the abridged version. I'm sure everybody's heard this story. There was a tornado touchdown only 20 miles away from the site of the competition. We were in panic mode trying to get everything packed up before the rains got there because the storm front was coming through so quickly. And so Mr. Lockhart and I and the adults were really packing everything. And we had told the students to go to the gymnasium. And then Marcia said to me, "What should I do?" And I said, "You need to go to the gym and make sure that the students are taken care of." And so we finished up, and as we were walking in, I looked at Mr. Lockhart and I said, "Well, let's go ahead and see what kind of madness is going on inside." And it was total madness. And I walked over, and I was so proud of our parents because our parents had gotten the students so organized. They were all sitting in rows in one section. They were very quiet. They were watching the other students act like unusual children. And our students were so calm and collected, and I was so proud of our parents. But here's the part of the story. An hour and a half later, I said to one of the parents, "Y'all did a great job." And they said, "What are you talking about?" We walked in. They were already organized. They were checking the roll themselves. And I went, because that's what it's all about. We're not here to win. We're here to train. And they just did a great job on their own. And that was really a proud thing. And honestly, the night of the competition, I said precious little because they were so focused on what they were going to do, and they really wanted to accomplish this. And that Saturday night, they did a performance for the ages. And I would like to say this. We're 70-something and 2 this season. We've beaten 70-some bands this season. We were defeated by 2. We were defeated by Dobbins-Bennett by 0.2 of a point, and we were defeated by Page in prelims. But we avenged that later that day. So we're 70-something and 2. That's better than most baseball teams. So, so we had a really successful season. So as I always end everything, I want to thank the parents, and I want to thank the administrative staff, and I want to thank the town for being so supportive of our students. And I really have the utmost admiration for these ladies and gentlemen. And someday, I hope that they can call me Perry. Not anytime soon, of course. But I would like them all to be my friends as well as former students, because that is the way I feel about them. They are just truly outstanding ladies and gentlemen. Any questions from the floor? Okay, I'm not running for anything, but this could be the kickoff of my campaign right here. Well, thank you again so much. And Mr. Alexander, thank you for inviting us. We're honored, of course. This is, believe it or not, I had so many of the students said, "I can't come." And I went, "Oh, it's such a big honor." They changed their schedules to be here. We have cheerleaders that are supposed to be, where are you supposed to be right now? Cherokee. They were glad to be asked here, I think. No, we have people that rearrange their ACT study period. work schedules, everything. We only have one missing, and that's Kat Smith, and she is in All East with Miss Googe. She's missing because of another music event. So I'm very, this is the kind of students that I have. I say, oh, it's so important. And they go, okay, we'll change all of our schedules to make it done. That's what a winner does. So, I want to thank the Johnson City Press and the Elizabethton Star and the local radio station and WJHL. That was really good press. It really was. It's really nice. So, Mr. Alexander, anything that you want to say to the group?
Well, we want to get, first of all, before we start taking pictures, after we start giving applause, is put this trophy in front of the people if we can.
Our name's on this trophy, by the way, from the last time we won it, and that was when we broke it the first time. So, let's bring the table as well. So.
And while they're doing that, folks, could we not give them a round of applause?
And you will notice that they're all wearing their gold medal tonight. They all received a gold medal for being first in the state, and they all have that on this evening. And, by the way, they look fantastic, I think.
Mr. Trent, while they're doing that, how quickly will this be placed on as a link on the website? Folks, you can go home and watch yourselves on TV. How's that? Because we'll see a lot of you on TV in the years to come.
Well, I can personally say that if you go to a Band Boosters meeting, you are going to come out feeling so good. And the big reason for that is who?
Tim Smith, the president of the Band Boosters, of course.
And Mr. Lockhart. The first one I went to, he stood up and he said, I love your child. I thought, I'm hooked. This is my man right here.
You won't want to come to a lot of rehearsals, though.
He is awesome. He really is. He and Mr. I think you and Mr. Lockhart are like peas and carrots.
Talent and not so much, yes. I agree with that. Well, thank you very, very much. But thanks again, Mr. Alexander. Is there anything else you'd like us to do? You want us to march around the room or anything?
No. We'll give you a little interlude here so everybody can go home
okay.
and do the other things.
Thank you all so much. We're very honored that you invited us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, my condolences to all of
Oh, he is great. You're not going to stay, Mr. Elliott?
Let me think.
So we can have that brought down tomorrow if you want us to. You don't have to. Oh, it's in there. Are you kidding? We're not trying to hold it to.
You know, I had a band director just about like him, and you'll know about him. It's Melba Kelly. Your uncle, Joe Carl, will know.
Yeah. Legendary.
I think he was drum major during that period. I just appreciate them. I play the radio.
You can play a radio?
No, I think Melba Kelly was there in the late 40s.
My uncle was a drum major, but yes, that's why I knew who that was. Big figure.
That's a good thing. I'm talking out to you.
Mrs. Boone, I think we're okay. Ready to go.
All right, we're going to continue with the meeting. It is time for citizens to speak in accordance with Board Policy 1.404. If anyone wishes to address the board, please step to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Sharon Lynch Skeen, 606 Beach Street, Elizabethton, Tennessee. First of all, I would like to congratulate all three of y'all. I go to church with Mr. Isaacs and Mr. May, and I'd like to congratulate the new board. And while I was campaigning at Eastside, and my girl Bethany was at T.A. Duggar, there was two things to address, and just because I didn't win, I just wanted to pass it on the concerns. You may or may not be able to do anything about it, but for the citizens, there was quite a few parents at Eastside wanted to see about putting a light out in that back parking lot, because as the day went on, it got very dark. Mr. Isaacs was there and can vouch for that. And also, my girl was at T.A. Duggar, and there was 3 of the voters that had fallen at the stairs right there at that roadway, and they just, would like to see what y'all would think about putting a railing there for safety.
Absolutely.
And like I said, congratulations for all of y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Skeen. So it is a little dark back there at the back parking lot, isn't it?
They do. I even have had the concern, it wasn't really a complaint, about people falling on Election Day at T.A. Duggar. Those steps are quite steep for just that bank right there. And even those steps that come out of the auditorium, they also could use a railing. Now that's, pardon? Yes, that's true. That's something I think we should think about at the workshop. Thank you.
Anyone else? Moving forward, it's time to approve the consent and regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Dr. May has made the motion. Have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Isaacs made the second. Do we have any changes? Anything we need to change on this?
The study that I asked for on the regular agenda of the 3 elementary school facilities was, I guess you thought it should go someplace else. I don't know, it wasn't put on there, but that's okay. We can pick it up. And I do think there needs to be a study done of those 3 schools. And it would be good if you could do the study before the workshop, capital projects or budget workshop. But I have noticed at the times that I've gone into the schools, I see little things that probably need attention, and that's why I asked for that particular thing. I know Mr. McMahon, is that his name, has done the study in the county and done a very good job from what I could read in the page.
He spent about a year on that study.
Yes, he has.
Anything else?
Oh, on the minutes. I'll get to them. On those minutes at the last meeting, Mr. Van Huss, did you give a report on those fields at T.A. Duggar, the baseball and softball field?
No, I think the only thing I said was it was out for bid, and we were waiting to collect those bids. That was I think the only thing that was in there.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's all that I said at that point.
And he's going to respond to the capital programs in response to what you asked in just a moment.
Oh,
okay. So
very good.
We covered everything.
Let's see if I can find the minutes. I think that's the only question I have with the ball fields, yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, I think so.
Item on the floor is to approve the consent and regular agendas. Oh, mine just went blank. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion is passed. Time for Mr. Alexander's report.
Very quickly here, first of all, of course, I assume many of y'all were at the Fraser Fur lighting on Tuesday. Of course, tomorrow we play the round 3 of playoffs at Brown Childers Stadium. And as I indicated, of course, our girls and boys basketball teams, the varsities, are playing at Cherokee, as we indicated earlier. As I mentioned when the soccer team was here, the city officials have indicated they want to do a proclamation on the 13th of December for them, and we're excited about that as well. And we're excited about what is happening, not just those things that are athletic. Now for the reference to the personnel update, very quickly, this is a short one, folks. I'm sure you will like that. Resignation, Travis Smithdale, T.A. Duggar head football coach, effective 10/25. So on the second page, Bobby J. Winters, system-wide bus driver, effective 11/9. Devin Ploss, ESP child care worker, effective 11/19. Kathleen Reed, Harold McCormick assistant to the teacher, effective 1/22. Now, leave of absence, Margaret Peggy Burns, EHS teacher, from 11/1 to 1/3/13. Suspension, Allison B. Hill, T.A. Duggar assistant to the teacher, from 10/31 to 11/8. New hire, Elvira Noble, Westside lunchroom monitor, effective 11/19. And at this point, as I indicated to Mrs. Armstrong, she had asked for a number of things that we want to address now, I hope. The first one, Eddie Pless would be addressing if he didn't have a major virus and he was at home dehydrated. But you have in front of you the reference to Elizabethton City Schools 2012 report card summary. And that is the short cheat sheet form of what we have done data-wise for our report card. So if you have an opportunity to look at that, it's pretty concise, but it shows what our people are doing, and I'm very, very proud of that. The next thing is Mr. Trent had compiled, Mrs. Armstrong had asked for a compilation of costs for, and you have that in front of you as well, under employee training, boardroom, central office. And I'm proud to say that we've come in under bid by $100,000 on that. It's the total cost of this boardroom, is would have been $125,000, and what has been spent is $21,880.36. And if nothing else, to have the soccer team and the band here today and have a nice place for them to come is a godsend to us, certainly. Now, at this time, Mr. Van Hus, do you want to come forward? And the reason that he's not wearing a tie is because he's going to the ball game here soon hereafter.
Maybe.
At Cherokee. That's a long way.
Mr. Van Hus, before you start, Mr. Alexander, we need to make a correction. And Kathleen Reed, that was 11/22, not 1/22.
Oh.
That she resigned. So just want to make sure we had that in the record correctly.
You told me that. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Mr. Armstrong, you had made some requests, some information that you would like to have, and in your at your seat there, you should have a document that looks like this. It's titled 2012-2013 tuition enrollment, and it's by school, and it has each of those categories down. There's a percentage there, so I'm assuming that that's, pardon? Well, I may have given you an old one. This was current and up to date. You asked for the number of tuition-paying students in each school, so that's what I put together. That's on that document.
I have it.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying you have it there. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Also on there, you had asked for the amount and source of tuition monies. The amount I put on here, I'm not really sure what you were asking for when you said source of tuition monies. That's on your request on number 2.
Okay.
Amount and source. I'm not sure what you're asking for about the source.
Well, okay, the money for tuition students is sent in from the county.
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's what a parent pays to enroll their child. That's the tuition fees that we're talking about.
Not that one. The one that they, well, if you don't have a budget in front of you, do you? Okay.
I think you're talking about the money that we receive because we have more students. Is that what you're referring to? Okay, that's not tuition money. So Miss.
I just want tuition money.
Okay, the tuition. Okay, the tuition is the amount on here. That's what, when we say tuition, that's what a parent that doesn't live inside the city limits pays to enroll their child in our school. Now, if you're talking about what we receive, our portion, because our number of students goes up, Miss Wilson can maybe speak to that, but I'm not sure about that. Also in your packet, there is a set of, I think, 5 different options from Mr. Weems for a walkway, and I can't imagine we can draw up anything else, any other option that's not on here. It goes all the way from just a simple, just a cover itself, all the way to an option where you have a full-size classroom built in addition with that. And behind each one there is the floor plan, then an outside rendering, and then a budget estimate from Mr. Weems. So I'm sorry we couldn't get that to you sooner, but you can see he just got all that together a couple of days ago, so you can take a look at that. Also in your information from Ms. Perkins, Ms. Armstrong, you had asked about some class sizes. And there is a document that looks like this. It's a computer printout, and it's hard to read. So I'm going to tell you how to read that. The first column is basically the grade. Okay, so at the top, does everyone have it there? Okay. The first column under course, that's the actual grades. Okay. So the first one is kindergarten, then first grade, second grade, third grade, and so on. So the first page you have is for East Side. The school code is 10, East Side is 10. Harold McCormick is 20, and West Side is 30. So each page is for the different school. So like, for instance, in first grade at East Side, there are 3 teachers. There are 3 classes listed there. And under the column, you'll see a large column that says seats, and the third column over is assigned. It's ASSI. It means assigned. That's how many students are assigned to that class. So like, for instance, East Side, first grade, the first class, there are 19 students. The second class, there are 21. And the third class, there are 20. So you can take that from there and figure out any kind of student-pupil ratio, anything you have there. The other thing I put in here, Ms. Boer requests, she asked if, when we look at capital projects and things like that, she asked what we do as administrators, what kind of process we go through. And so this handout is just something that I put together. All the supervisors, Mr. Alexander, looked at as well. And we tried to come up with just give you some kind of idea about the planning that goes on from our side, when we put capital projects together. So, the information for me.
I do. On this, for instance, this you just have the canopy.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't had an opportunity to look at it.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Picked it up. So, are you also including canopy coverings on the side?
In this packet, Ms. Armstrong, there are 5 different designs.
Okay, and you have
and the first one is the one that you're referring to. Then the other 4 all are enclosed walkways with various room arrangements on the end. Like, for instance, canopy option B has a corridor that's enclosed and a small resource room. So you can kind of look through each of those, and again, after each floor plan, there is an outside rendering, so you can see a drawing of what it would look like from the outside. And then the next page is a budget estimate from Mr. Weems. So there are 5 different options in there. Okay, and it is a lot of information, so, but again, I can't think of an option there that he's not put together for us, so there's plenty to look at there.
He has a lobby and concessions on one.
Yes, yeah. Those are things that we can certainly, take out. He's just trying to take the space that's there currently. Now in that lobby area at the gym, there is a concession stand area. So, he's not really sure about those kinds of things, how much we actually use those. So.
Do you have enough room there to figure in that many classrooms between the gym and the building?
He has not figured anything like that. The last option, option E, takes the lobby area that's there now and the little concession stand area, which is essentially storage now, extends that out toward the existing building and creates a full-size classroom that you could put, 20, 25 students of whatever grade you wanted in there. So that's the last option. It has enough space for an additional classroom.
I didn't know, whether when you're looking at it, I don't know enough about property to know if there was enough space there.
I think there's a possibility to put additional classrooms on there, and if that's something that's certainly something, whichever option you choose at whatever point, that's certainly something that he can build into design. If we can't do other classrooms at that point, maybe you can add on others, as you have fun. So.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ness. Be careful driving, please. May I go on with some of this? First of all, if you'd be kind enough to look at the, Mrs. Armstrong asked about the Jackson Shields Geyser Holt, an explanation of how that money was spent. It's in this.
No, I don't need the money. I just didn't know what it was about.
What it was about. Oh, yes, ma'am. The reference, the first two references on this sheet, the phone conference with Richard Van Hess, the email communication with Richard Van Hess was to determine. Nate Morabito asked for specific information on our teachers and their phone numbers and things of that nature. And we talked with Mr. Van Hess talked with Mr. Shields and said that we can't provide that information. And Mrs. Armstrong, the reason that you got a listing, you requested a directory, and the reason that there are no phone numbers and addresses on that is because our attorney said we couldn't put them in that. So that I want to explain that, and no one gets that. And so it's privileged information, and they can get what school they're assigned to, but we cannot give that information, and that's why that's what that was all about. The next two were a reference to whether or not a bus driver had to give 2 weeks notice, and we got an answer from them on that. The next five are Mr. Van Hess was working with Mr. Shields as it relates to ETSU fingerprinting and things of this nature of student teachers.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to know about the revision of is it a student program from East Tennessee State, or is
ma'am, this is for all student teachers, interns, and things of this nature. And go ahead, Mr. Van Ness. There has been a change, and it's easier on us.
There's an issue between any university, not just ETSU, about what's required on our end. Obviously, when someone comes in our school building, we have to have a background check on them. Well, right now, if you're a student teacher, you would be required to come into our central office and pay for a background check and fingerprinting, which we certainly don't want to do that to a student, but ETSU at the same time can't share that information with us because of privacy issues. So that's what we were trying to work through, and we think we've found a solution where ETSU will send us documentation that verifies that they have a clean background check, and we'll put that on file. And in speaking with Ms. Owen and Mr. Shields, they feel like that meets the letter of the law. So that will alleviate the need for those students to pay that additional fee. So
that's good, because they don't have the money to do that. Most students don't. The last reference on that was a student custody issue that we need to talk to Ms. Owen about. So that's what that was about. Let's see if there's any other references. There was a question about donations, I think, Ms. Armstrong, And as it stands right now, the only true donations we have are money's $40,000 in the athletic fund at EHS, and the ECS Foundation has $15,000 in it. The only other donation that we have is Klein and Associates gave 20, and you have a listing of that, $24,890 worth of equipment to the science department at TA Duggar, and so that's in equipment for the science department, and that's I think that covers everything that you'd asked for.
Well, could you get that information to us a little bit early, so we can kind of look at it?
Oh, sure, ma'am. I'm sorry about that, especially about the drawings and things. This station, we're hustling as soon as we can, as fast as we can, shoveling it as fast as we can.
Yeah, that would help a good deal.
Yes, ma'am.
To have it.
Yes, ma'am.
Soon.
Yeah, ma'am, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else have any reports? Ms. Baker, do you feel able to talk about the convention?
Excuse me, I do have a sinus problem. But the annual convention was very good, very informative. I was able to get the last book from Mr. Johnson on leadership. So I felt very good because the rest of them was in line behind me. So I did get that book, and I will share it and pass it around. The other sessions were good. Of course, the delegate assembly, it was approximately maybe 20 questions that we went over and voted on. And of course, I'm sure that they will be sending that out on the internet as far as the decisions that was made on that. The very last session dealt with core classes, which I had been asking off and on about, and I was very pleased. The speaker has a nonprofit organization, and she is willing to come and work with various schools. She has worked with some in Tennessee, and she stated she was pleased with the progress that Tennessee was making. But the core classes, I feel it's a very good step in the right direction because you're covering basics and then moving on from there. And I did bring my book, so if you want to look through some of them, and you may find some little markings, and if you find a marking, I can give you a little bit of information on that one. So I'll just pass it around. But hopefully you'll be able to attend maybe the next one. And please forgive my sinus condition that I...
Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Hope you feel better. Anyone else? Time to move on to the regular agenda. First item, approve first reading of Board Policy 1.802, Section 504, and ADA grievance procedures as proposed. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Baker. Can I get a second?
Second.
Dr. May. Mr. Alexander?
The changes, Mrs. Perkins has included the current policy as compared with this one, and there are quite a few changes on this. First of all, it is the board who makes available the name of it, and it would be, in our case, it's Dr. Gardner for 504 and also special ed. And secondly, the board does that. And I will say that there is going to be an impartial due process hearing going on there, folks. And the thing about that that is different, that was used to be done by one of our employees. But as it states now on the page 2 of 4 there, the director of schools and his or designee shall appoint an impartial hearing officer. That's not part of the system. So that's a problem. And if that person is deemed to be by the person making the appeal as not impartial, then they go to the Office of Civil Rights. And I will say the hearing itself is explained in the next pages, but it is a video recorded. It's not. There are not notes taken on that, but it is video recorded. And the person who's making the appeal and things of this nature all gets a copy of that along with everyone else they can use later on. So also, if the person is not satisfied with the decision of this hearing, they are able to go to Chancery Court rather than to the board. So, and for y'all, I guess that's probably a godsend in a lot of ways.
Okay, so these changes came down from.
That's what. Yes, ma'am.
They're not our local.
No, that's TSBA.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
That's quite a bit of ink. Yes. Okay, that's what I was asking because it was quite a bit more, and I spent time going back over this.
That's a big change.
That was one of my main questions that I had tonight.
And it does give the person an opportunity
Yeah.
to put it on somebody that's objective and give them an opportunity to hear that. They may come up with the same decision that they might have made otherwise. But
I think it protects the board and the system by having the impartial officer, because this is probably one of the hardest issues that we would ever be faced with, and it prevents the impression as if we're stilted if we rule against. So I think I think it's probably a good change. It's just maybe more expensive and or difficult to achieve. But I do think it's a good policy.
Any other questions or comments? The item on the floor is to approve first reading of Board Policy 1.802, Section 504, and ADA grievance procedures as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item has passed. Next item is approve first reading of Board Policy 3.404, private vehicles as proposed. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion we approve.
Thank you, Mr. Isaacs. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Baker.
now, if you'll notice, folks, on the current policy, something I spoke with Mr. Hutchins about, who's dealt with this multitudinous times, is it said a copy of insurance certificate issued, this is the current policy, to be insured indicating liability limits of at least $300,000, $700,000, and $100,000. This is for private use of vehicles. And we will make a decision. He'll make a recommendation to me, but we don't think it should ever exceed $250,000. The thing about this is most of our employees don't have that coverage. And there are times when our people have to transport children as well as other employees, and if we had to check to make sure they had that coverage, and probably Mr. Walters knows more about coverage than anyone else in here, we just think that that exceeds anything that most people have in their insurance, and therefore it would exclude them from using their vehicles. And sometimes you just have to do that. And so a lot of the coaches in here know there are times when buses break down and things of this nature that they had the caravan and things of this nature. I hope I'm not indicting us and things that as it relates to policy, but sometimes you just have to do that, and it's impossible to meet these guidelines. So we will reset that and come back to the board with that with a reasonable amount of money. So that's why we ask. That's why it's sort of vague. It gives us that latitude, and that's what we will work on that.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Item on the floor. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had a concern, I guess, just at the end about the board recognizes the volunteer parent drivers are often needed. And then it says that they would provide proof of vehicle liability insurance. I wonder if we have interpreted if that proof of insurance can be verbal proof, or does this need to be a written, documented process? How far do we need to take that? Because I guess I'm concerned that on the fly things happen. And how do we make it where it's not an obstruction for a parent to be involved with the system because they just don't have the resources to support the documentation, but they have insurance. They probably have an insurance card in their pocket. Can they show it to us, or do they need to go and copy it and get inside the system? I'm thinking after hours.
That is legitimate, showing the actual. We have to see something. Of course, first of all, we don't allow other parents to transport other kiddos. We don't do that. But parents can transport their children anywhere, anytime they wish. So Now, that circumstance, if they were to show us an insurance card in that respect, that would be, but they couldn't just tell us that. There's a verbal response is just not enough. But what happens, Dr. May, in a situation like that is usually the principal makes a decision on the fly as it relates to, I think, Mr. Hutchins, correct me if I'm wrong, tennis is a perfect example. Sometimes they've had a bus that's been rerouted or broken down and things of this nature, and the principal makes the decision that they will caravan to that place and stay right together, and that's against policy. But we're not going to have our children not compete.
That was the type of concern is how does an administrator at the time that makes that decision have any protection to make that occasional decision? It would be rare and unexpected, but if there's not the resources to be able to provide that.
Well, I'm just saying they have to take that obligation on themselves, and they do that all the time. That's why they have so much gray hair.
Wouldn't it?
I'm sorry.
Do they not have a small bus for teams like tennis and golf? And
yes, ma'am.
That
yes,
they
ma'am.
can.
But sometimes there have been problems. Golf, tennis, cheerleading, things like that. Go ahead, Mr. Hutchins. You want to respond to that?
We have 3 spare buses, and if someone needs to leave prior to the end of the school day or at the end of the school day or prior to our buses getting back from routes, we sometimes have difficulty having enough buses for everyone who's going out and playing in an event. We have 1 small bus, but it really doesn't matter whether it's large or small. We make them all available to all of our athletic teams and teachers for field trips. That being said, sometimes Mr. Street, when he is scheduling the athletic trips, comes into a day where he has 7 or 8 or 9 things that are going on that day. And it's very, very rare. I think maybe once or twice in the last couple of years where we've been in a situation where we've gotten a phone call from maybe the athletic director saying, we've been told we don't have a bus, we have a ball game today. Can we talk to the parents and ask them if they can transport their own students? But we do not take a child and put them in a car with another parent. That's not we're not going to be responsible for that. We haven't been responsible for that. So very, very rare, but with only 3 spare buses, that's kind of the situation that we find ourselves in. Right now we have 1 spare driver who works for the Johnson City Fire Department, and so he works 10 days out of the year, so we only get him on those days that he's not working. So again, we are a little bit short on drivers, and we only have the few spare buses that we have.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you on what you're stating about the child if they don't have. That's a good point, very good point, and I agree with what you're saying.
I think the policy is good the way it's written. I just would like to make sure we are cognizant of the fact that those people who have to make these calls on the fly sometimes need a protection within the policy as well, that there will be unforeseen events, and I don't know if it could be worded into there like a number 7 that this policy may be superseded by administrative, approval, and that allows somebody who is functioning as an officer of the school system to give the approval in such cases. I just don't know how to make that happen, but if we could legally add that in and still have the protections that the new policy affords. But, until then, I think the new policy is probably by TSBA addressing the issues that have changed within the legislative system that require us. And the old policy, by limiting a number, is somewhat restrictive. It's actually probably better to have an open-ended number. As the future comes, these numbers may be very small in the court systems. We may want 10 million instead of 300,000. I mean, I don't know how things are going, but it does tie your hands in the older policy. The newer policy is clearly better than the older policy, but my concern is for those events at such time where a coach or an a principal may have to step in and make a decision. And I'd just like them to know that they have the backing of the board, that they can do that and feel comfortable to make. We put them in charge for those reasons. I'd like them to feel comfortable they can do that and have protection.
You know, Dr. May, if just sort of to give you an idea of how this will play out, if that is the pleasure of the board to follow and act on your suggestion, then you will need to vote down this proposed policy and let us bring it back in a version that you're suggesting.
That's a good idea.
So just so that you'll understand that we have to reject this one, and then we'd have to formally come back another month, whether it's December or January or whenever, we'd have to bring that back as a totally new version to you to vote on.
Can I withdraw my motion and table it until we have another
Since
chance
it's come to a
look at the
second,
policy?
you'll have to vote it down, I
Okay.
believe, so that's, which is fine, and we can really doctor this baby up.
Well, I'm curious what the others think, because that's
fine.
It's
I
just
mean,
a thought
yeah,
I had for that.
That's fine. I want to make sure that we're protected and the
Well,
board's
that,
protected.
I'm sure that tickles the principals to death, because, I mean, you know, they've been hanging out there for so long, making decisions like that. It's tough, and I think it's a great idea.
I appreciate you looking in and bringing that up to us, Dr. May.
All right.
And it may be something that we can attach to this where the parents would sign, giving permission if it's. You know,
I mean,
like
from my
work on.
experience, when we do travel, they travel to the games, but a lot of times the children ride home with their parents, and I've always had to sign my check,
Absolutely.
and they do not let other children ride home with us. I mean, that's been the practice, and that's what I've seen. So I've tried that, and they say, no, if your parents not here, you got to ride the bus. So, I mean, it's something from my experience, and it's worked well.
So, approve first reading of Board Policy 3.404, private vehicles as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. We'll nay it or aye it or whatever.
We look forward to seeing what, some of the
Absolutely,
suggestions
we
that
can
Dr.
make,
May
we can fix that.
So that motion did not pass.
Can we make a motion then that we amend this policy with those stipulations and have direct Mr. Alexander to bring that back to the next board meeting?
Do we need
It
to
hadn't
talk to
taken
the
motion,
attorneys
but we
first,
could-
or how should we do it?
Typically, since you have voted this down, then that would be your direction to Mr. Alexander as superintendent to bring your concerns to the administrative team and the board attorney to review their wording on that, and then at that point it would be brought back to you. You would not have to formally do a motion for him to do that.
Okay.
We'll place it back on the agenda.
I'll call you and tell you to do that.
Okay.
You got that option at any time for any of us.
All right, moving on. Approve first reading of Board Policy 4.406, use of internet as proposed. Can I get a motion?
Yes,
Thank
motion.
you, Dr. May. Can I get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Isaac.
The most significant part of this is under social networking. They have added 3 bullets to that that you may want to look at page 3 of 3 that is specifically intended by Mr. Harrell to address our employees utilizing are being involved with interaction, especially with students. And I think every parent here, every grandparent here would agree that that's a prudent thing to do. And the only other thing that we need to do with that is on page 2 of 3, and that is list or have a public hearing or meeting, and we can do that during a meeting, to address and communicate the internet safety measures. But other than that, that's the only changes that we have on that board policy, and it's good. I think all of us agree with that. We're all scared to death of what's happening and what goes on over the internet.
So would this restrict teachers from having any contact with students on
No,
Facebook?
it doesn't say you can't do that.
Okay.
But what it says, inappropriate relationships and interaction. And I don't think under free speech that we could do that. I think that would be illegal or unconstitutional. But principals deal with this quite often, and they deal with it when children misuse the internet, and those problems filter down, not only dating and things of that nature, but inadvertent comments, misunderstandings over the internet. They deal with this on a daily basis, and we can't police the internet, but we have to address those things that come out of it sometimes, and that is especially something that principals in the past didn't have to deal with, and I applaud what they do, because it certainly isn't easy. I'm sorry, let me go on there.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Hearing none. Item on the floor is to approve first reading of Board Policy 4.406, use of internet as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, approve first reading of Board Policy 5.701, substitute teachers as proposed. Mr. Alexander.
The only change here is the Board of Education can allow a third party to pursue substitute placement. And if y'all, those people who are old like me, might cast your mind back to when our system considered Kelly as temporary services for this. And I think the reason that the board didn't do that, of course, is it's too expensive. And we understood that, but it sure would be nice. The principals, again, know out here in their personnel, those 4, 5, and 6 o'clock in the morning, those calls about sicknesses, and most of the teachers have children of their own and sicknesses and things of this nature. And we used to divide them up at the high school. And, when you have 65 to 70 people there and bad weather like we have here, Mr. Pless is out sick today and things of this nature. But when you have children sick, that's the only change in this policy. It gives us legally the right to recommend you all a third party that you would vote on. So we still can't afford it, but we do. I don't think we can afford it.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Item on the floor is approved first reading of Board Policy 5.701, substitute teachers as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Madam Chairman.
Motion to approve it first.
Oh, did I need to do
approve.
that? Did I not really?
Motion to approve.
You're a beautiful man. Thank you. Second? I'm like Kim Birchfield. He used to fly through these things. You have a second? I'll second it. Okay. So we talked about now we can vote on it. Thank you. Do I have to read it again? Did I do it again? Item on the floor, I apologize. Approve first reading of Board Policy 5.701, substitute teachers as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is discuss and consider board approval of architectural drawings of enclosure of walkway from building to gym at Harold McCormick Elementary, in parentheses, any additional suggestions or options. Ms. Armstrong, I believe this is yours.
Turn back to see that, how I stated that exactly. I think that what Mr. Van has shared with us covers that.
Okay.
Because I know at the last meeting, all I had was that little skeleton-like drawing. So I think we'll have time for it and maybe work on it in the budget workshop or in the capital projects workshop.
Okay. Next item was to discuss scheduling a capital projects workshops. In parentheses, funds, options, suggestions for improved, updated plans. I believe this is yours as well.
Oh, you want me to address that?
Did you request a capital projects workshop?
I just thought that we should have a capital projects workshop and also a policy workshop. It would benefit me greatly because you kind of don't use them, or and you need that review, I think, to be sharp on those particular items.
Well, I agree completely. I believe that especially, and I don't know if I welcomed Dr. May and Mr. Isaacs to the board, but welcome. I believe a capital projects workshop would be very beneficial for the two of you to get you up to speed with how we came to our current proposed capital projects. Probably wouldn't hurt to maybe do a field trip at some point and walk around T.A. Duggar and the high school, and so I'm all for that. I'd like to do that as quickly as we could. I think that would benefit.
I agree, and I think so too. I know me and Dr. May would like to see where we've been, where we're at, and where we're headed, and some of the funds that would be needed to approach some of these ideas. So, but we need to kind of see where we're at and what we've done, because I know that a lot has been done, and so I think sooner the better. I know we're getting to the holidays, but the sooner the better would really be beneficial to us.
Well, I know myself, I don't visit the schools as often as I should, and even in state law, one of the duties of a board member is to visit the schools, and I get busy and don't do that, and I'm amazed at the things that I find when I go into the building that I didn't know. I feel like they need to be corrected, just like the railing at the T.A. Duggar. And I was at actually Eastside one day, and I noticed the little preschoolers, it's not your fault, the little preschoolers were thirsty when they came in from playing on the playground. And a teacher and aide, I don't know one from the other over there, they had to pick each child up to get a drink of water because the water fountains were too high for the child. And I thought, gosh, that's terrible, that poor lady having to pick every one of those children up to get a drink of water. And I thought, something needs to be done. Now, that's just me.
But don't we have, does Eastside have shorter, the steps?
Yeah. I guess she didn't have them out that day. I don't know.
They're out every day, but the steps is under the water fountain, just pull it out, step up on.
Yeah. But just the little things like that you'll notice. And
I would really like to do that too. I think there's a lot of advantages for us to be in the system, to see what the needs are, especially, we need to be able to prioritize, and two of us are new, and that's Mr. Isaacs had alluded to that we had both mentioned during that time, and that we kept getting questions as we were running for this office from people about what's your priorities, but I know that a lot of times it was hard to prioritize. And those of you who've been here, I'm going to rely heavily on your influence and discussions openly. I'd like to go around with you and see these facilities and see if we can kind of talk about them and then meet here and make appropriate decisions based on those priorities.
Well, why don't we have, I know you have a very, very busy schedule, but if we can start funneling some dates in to Ms. Perkins, and then if one date starts looking possible, then we'll get the word out and plan that. I would look forward to it. I've always enjoyed when we have done that, and I think it would be beneficial for all of us, especially for you guys, because obviously you're not in any position to make any decisions till you go visit. So,
Madam Chairman, are we working on which one first? Are we going to do the capital workshop first as far as dates, and then we would go to the policy workshops second?
I would think maybe policy workshop after the holidays, first of the year. I know Dr. May and Mr. Isaacs are going to be trying to attend the new board members orientation. Lots of stuff's going on. I think we'll do capital, if it's okay, capital projects first, and then after everything settles down and it's cold, if we could sit in one spot, that would probably be a good idea. So probably both dates, if you're looking at your calendar, give her some dates that would work for capital projects, and then also for the policy workshop.
Yeah, that will give us time to go in, and I rarely make notes, but I have been doing that, east side, west side, whatever.
Probably what we would need to do, maybe.
Tour prior to that. We can load it up and go.
And I would like to do that. My children went to Eastside, and there's been some significant changes up at Eastside, and I'm very anxious to get up there and see some of the things that are going on up there.
We have a ribbon cutting. We hope we can roll into another event that y'all can see what's been done on those 2.5 rooms that they have there.
Are you thinking of trying to do like a tour like in the morning and then come back here for the workshop, or like?
I think it would be helpful if we toured the buildings. We don't have to stay long, but we could, you know, walk through. Yeah, I think it would help to discuss once you've seen it, you've seen it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if we could do that, that would be terrific.
And I think these floor plans that have been here would
Ms.
help
Armstrong
somewhat.
requested those, and I think
So
that's.
I think this would be beneficial to us, those that haven't been to some of these facilities. So.
As we're getting closer to a policy workshop, we probably need to determine what that would look like. Ms. Perkins and I were talking about that. There's a lot of ways we can deal with that, you know, how we're going to divide that out, and, you know, if we're going to make it a continuous effort. So we need to be thinking about how we want to do that policy workshop too. But we'll focus on the capital one first and revisit policy workshop after the holidays. Give everybody one less thing on your plate.
Well, everybody's very willing to help you. That's true, the teachers, the principals, and it's a good thing.
Okay. Anything else?
The error on the, for next regular scheduled meeting is on Tuesday.
So I think our last item on the regular agenda, it was an addition, is to approve requests from EHS CTE Department to purchase 20 laptop computers and 1 laptop security card from Dell Computers for a total cost of $14,824.99, utilizing the state contract bid process. That is attachment 15. Do I have a motion to approve?
The only question I had earlier today, and
we got to approve it first.
Oh, we got to approve it. Oh,
yes,
okay.
we have a motion to approve.
She's going to get a cart before the horse. Okay.
I do that.
Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Now we can talk about it?
Now we can talk about
Yeah,
it.
okay. The only question I had, and Ms. Perkins helped me over with this today, I was just not really concerned. Just the question I had was about the bid process, and she reassured me through the state contract bid process that the bid process had been done. So she reassured me of that. And other than that, that was really the only questions that I had as far as that.
I'd like to make a comment. I like to see the bids. For a while, I think the 3 bids or 4 bids or whatever came in was back in the packets before. And I usually like to see those and make a comparison as to what we're getting as opposed to what we've turned down or what we're not taking. But it's supposed to be at least 3 bids. And usually, that was one of the questions I've had a good while back.
That was kind of the question that I had, was the 3 bids, but my understanding and the answers that I received today is that through the state contract bid process, that bid process has already been done. The state, through
They've run the
their process, has already done that for
Okay,
us.
but still I'd like to see it, and as a board, we're supposed to see those.
Okay.
And then, let's say one might cost a little more, but as a board, if we decided we want to go with that one, or one might be less. So I would like to see those bids as well, please.
When we utilize the state contract, if the amount that we are asking approval is over $10,000, that always has to come before the board. That's part of our procedure. But when we utilize the state contract, and Mr. Trent can correct me on this if I'm wrong, the state goes through the evaluation process, reviews the vendors and their bids, make sure that they meet the specifications that they need to on the bid, that whole process. And then we have available to us to look on that list to see if the item that we are choosing to purchase is on there, and if it in fact is, then we have met the letter of the law by utilizing the state contract. That there is not any vendor that would not have the opportunity to be included in the state bid process if they so chose. They can live anywhere within the state of Tennessee and submit that bid to the comptroller's office. So we're not restricting any of our local vendors to participate in this.
I understand.
But when we do utilize the state contract, then that eliminates a lot of the time and effort involved by our staff to do exactly what's already been done, so it would be a duplication of effort.
Well, I think it should be at least 3, and I would really like to see those 3. Of course, that's one of the questions that maybe you two want to ask when you go to your.
So you're saying that
like,
if we, even though that it has already been met, you still want us to secure additional bids even though we don't need to?
I still would like to see at least 3 bids on anything that's over 10,000. And I believe maybe it's changed, but I believe that's what we were told, that we should have those bids. And I know a good while back, it was something we were bidding out, and Mr. Williams had called and asked if we had checked.
I don't think the state will allow us to see that. That's, Ms. Trent, do you know
Well, you
specifically?
can check when you go to the meeting.
Will the state allow us to show that to the board, or obtain that and show that to the board?
I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check on that. But you know, one thing I would like to say on that, if let's say, you know, we're buying these computers right here, if we go through a bid process, you know, and we won't even count the delays we would have to go through, but Ms. Wilson could even elaborate on the cost that, you know, I know it's cost us hundreds of dollars to place bids in the newspaper, and we go through a whole process, and the state or sometimes Dale through Wilson County, various different school systems, usually Wilson, Davidson, or Knox. Some of those will go through the bid process, and we're allowed to buy off of that, which in turn saves us a ton of man hours, lots of money, and we buy in volume like that through the state of Tennessee. We always get the best deal. And you know, we obviously when we're bidding out computers, it's going to be a certain discount that they're bidding, or they're discounting from Dale. They're going to discount it through the state of Tennessee across the board. Our only options if we went another route would be, you know, we'd have to go HP to Toshiba or something like that. But that's going to be our best price we're going to get off the Dale, period.
I'm not saying not to take Dale. I'm just saying it'd be nice to see at least 2 other bids. But like I said, when we went through the training, it said to obtain 3 bids. But
I don't
that's
think,
okay.
are you talking about state contracts? That's different, correct? I mean, what
Yeah,
you're talking about is different than a state
check
contract.
Well, are we going to always use the state contract on anything?
No, ma'am. We don't always use a state contract. You, as a board, have approved several things. We have purchased copiers from local vendors. I mean, there's several different instances where we have purchased things, buses. I mean, there's lots of things that we do go through the open bid process on. But as Mr. Trent said, by utilizing the state contract when we can, it is usually financially best for us to do it that way, price-wise, and also is the best use of the manpower in the school system. The requirements that those vendors have to meet to be considered the vendor who was awarded the state contract, are set very high. They have certain, you know, standards that then.
Do we pay them?
No, ma'am.
It's free.
We don't pay for this. I mean, we're part of.
You're a part of that. It's a state contract bid, so we just get to.
And that's open to any
Yeah.
school in any school system in the state to do that.
Do we have that in the board policy? I was just, in fact, I thought I had brought them with me. The bid process, it's in the 200s in the board policy.
Ms. Wilson might be able to address that specifically more so than I can. I don't have.
Well, this is one of those things where we're moving off. We're jumping off course. We're asking Ms. Wilson something that she's not prepared to talk about, and basically we just need to stick to this agenda item. It's been a long day. Let's just stick to what we got. Let's vote on this, and then if we have questions about anything else, we can ask Ms. Wilson, or we can put it on another item. But we're going down a rabbit trail, and you know.
Well,
I feel comfortable with this process. I'm somewhat familiar with it, and there's economies of scales when you can look at a larger buying power. Then they get better pricing. So I feel comfortable with it. I just want to make sure that through this state bid process that we're meeting the bidding processes.
Well, I just didn't know anything about it, so I had to ask some questions. I don't know what I'm voting on. I should have brought that policy with me, and I didn't.
Well, again, when you're doing this, I'm sure you can call Miss Wilson, and she'll answer that for you, and good to go anytime. I know anytime I've called her, she's been very helpful. Any other questions or comments? Item on the floor is to approve request from EHS CTE Department to purchase 20 laptop computers and 1 laptop security cart from Dell Computers for a total cost of $14,824.99, utilizing the state contract bid process. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. If there's anything else, next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held Tuesday. That's a change, not Thursday, Tuesday, December 11th at 6:30 p.m. in the Mac Pierce boardroom. We have a motion to adjourn.
Yes, we do.
Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.